On the day of October 30th, 1938, the day before Halloween, some radio listeners wished that they were not channel surfing. They had no idea what they were about to hear. Without hearing the disclaimer at the beginning of radio play on the Mercury Theater on the air, some listeners thought that the country was under attack. A couple things I'll be talking about with you today are: what is War of the Worlds? Why were the listeners frightened by the broadcast? And what happened to Orson Welles after the panic? Under attack, one listener might say. The actors of War of the Worlds were just that good. They brought in fake news reports that several explosions had occurred on Mars and it was moving towards the Earth. They said that Martian spacecrafts had landed in farms in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. According to Radiolab, 12 million people were listening, and 1 in every 12 of those thought that the panic was true. Some percentage of people even ran out of their homes. Now that we know a little bit about War of the Worlds and what happened, I'll discuss why the people were frightened. The people listening were frightened by the broadcast for several serious reasons. First, the radio had become a popular information and advertising source for the listeners. Without hearing that the broadcast was a drama, the actors made this very, very realistic. Fear and anxiety had become common since threats of war during the Great Depression and strife in Europe. Lastly, the Hindenburg disaster that happened the year before was still fresh on their minds. After the broadcast, the governor of New Jersey declared martial law, and that sent listeners into a panic. Now that we've discussed why listeners were frightened and why they panicked, we'll discuss what happened to Orson Welles after. After sending listeners into a panic, Orson Welles reminded everyone of the holiday offering that the broadcast was intended to be. Threats of a lawsuit were brought upon Welles, and he displayed his decisions of his theatrical company. He expressed his deep remorse and shock at the public's reaction. Federal Communications Commissions did not sanction Welles, and he quickly spun his trick into a treat. Today, you should have learned what the War of the Worlds was, why it frightened the listeners, and what happened to Orson Welles from the reaction of them. Without hearing the disclaimer at the beginning of radio play onto the Mercury Theater on the air, some listeners thought that the country was under attack. Now, I can't say I blame them. After they had been through the Great Depression and the Hindenburg, I would have done the same exact thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving toward the Earth with enormous velocity.
Thank you.